Welcome to the show with no name for the 5th of July, 2013. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch. Did I say this is the show with no name? Okay. All right.
Magic. Very good. Very good.
I'm getting better at the special effects.
Yeah. Modern technology.
I might try something even trickier.
Uh-oh.
Of course, Jamie's home now. I came home the other day,
You'll get
and so now we may have it's like we could have some animated guests come on and things like that. That's nice. Yeah, he came home Wednesday night, and yesterday, of course, was the 4th of July.
Yes, it was.
I spent.
Is that in person or virtually?
What?
Forget about
The
it.
4th of July. The 4th of July, the real Independence Day, notwithstanding what John Adams had to say to his
wife Abigail. Hey.
You're really getting spunky this week, Nikosha.
Well, when I got home, I said, Elaine, what would you have done if I wrote you a letter like that? She says, you wouldn't have got in the door.
Well, maybe that's why he stayed away for 12 years.
There you go.
Anyway, so I spent the day at Kroger Lake yesterday at my sister's, so I didn't get to watch any TV.
We did two parades. We did a parade at Argyle in the morning, and last night we did one up at Scroon Lake.
Wow.
And I was being out all day, I was anticipating having a chance to, devo a couple of programs and stuff, some patriotic programs.
Yeah, well, of course. So always on the 4th of July, it's like.
Yeah, nothing there.
What are you saying?
There wasn't really anything there yesterday, Bob.
You got to be kidding.
They had the Scarlet Coat on with Cornell Wilde, which is about Benedict Arnold and turning over plans to West Point.
Oh, wow.
And then HBO on their HBO station on 703 ran the John Adams series yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So
that's okay. That I would love to have. I got to buy that.
It was. We watched the first.
There's one fantastic scene after another in there.
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah, that was the other program
on?
that was on.
Yeah,
that was about
I
it.
got that.
But the John Adams, we watched the first one last night, which talked about him defending Prescott from the Boston Massacre.
Yeah.
And how the citizens.
Yeah, people forget that. One of our staunchest patriots was the attorney for the defendants in the Boston Massacre.
Yeah, and they were found not guilty.
Yeah, you got them off too.
And but the interplay, it was really fascinating. It was the interplay between him and Abigail, how she kept him kind of grounded and focused in what he did.
That's true.
He was a very bright man, and sometimes the brightest of men have a hard time dealing with people who are less bright.
She was the perfect wife for him.
And it was great. It was
now, Jim, I know you were being funny the other day, but I've given some thought to what you had to say. Abigail took a really big part in the American Revolution because she knew what she was doing, and she, it's like Gavin just said, try to keep John focused on the prize, and some of her letters are more political than his, frankly.
Yep.
And just before the famous letter that we read on Tuesday, she had written to him a quote from Shakespeare, from Julius Caesar. There's a tide in the affairs of men, which, when taken at the flood, blah blah blah. If you miss the boat, essentially, this is your opportunity. Seize it, and he was really responding to that, which is why he wrote it in the manner he did to his wife.
Yeah.
You're getting bored already, huh?
No, this is very interesting.
It is interesting. So I have not seen the whole John Adams series. I've seen the excerpts that are on YouTube, and they're just wonderful.
Yeah, they ran the whole series yesterday.
My favorite
twice.
scene, I think, is when he's ambassador to England. Now, here's a guy who was on the top of the list of King George's list of traitors to be hung. And then he's appointed the first ambassador to England after the war is settled. And he finally gets to his audience with King George, and the chief of protocol or somebody is explaining to him the manner in which you approach the king. You know, you bow and you take 3 steps back, and you wait for the king to speak, and all this. And the whole scene is magnificent, end to end, because obviously they're both feeling very awkward at the situation, and the king comes off very well in now talking about establishing the friendship between the two peoples who should never have been separated, and it's beautiful, really beautiful. Anyway. So, but I just had a chance to zip through some of my Facebook friends' comments, and they were universally panning the so-called patriotic shows, you know, the fireworks displays and parades and stuff. That there was almost a complete absence of patriotic music, and there was all crap. And
we watched Macy's fireworks program.
That one particularly was blasted.
You know, other than the fact that you could see these wonderful displays of pyrotechnics, the music they put with it, and the people, you know, they're just the celebrity talking heads that they have on
promoting themselves,
and oh, by the way, this is the 4th Be Patriotic. And then the music that was choreographed to the fireworks was abysmal. It's you know, we've become so politically correct in this nation and gotten so far away from the real deal of what we have here and what we've gone through to get here that we just don't recognize that any longer. It was sad, but we watched the fireworks and they looked nice. But the stuff, because we've always looked forward to the music that goes with it.
Yeah, sure.
How well choreographed it all is,
right.
And this and that, and they were right. Abysmal is being kind.
I will say someone noted that President Obama did a great thing for the country yesterday. He spent the 4th somewhere else.
And we didn't have to hear him speak. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I guess they laced them up a little bit on a couple of the foreigners. That they laced them up. They dressed them down, I guess was the right word. They aren't happy with what he's been doing.
Well, how's that Egyptian thing working out for you, Mr. President?
Do we get caught with our shorts down again, maybe?
I mean, it's like there is one, I don't know, silver lining in the way the president has been handling his foreign policy from the day he took office. And that is that he's made the United States so unreliable as an ally or an enemy, or it doesn't matter, you know, just so completely unreliable that it's forcing the other nations of the world to try to solve their own problems in their own way. And maybe that's not a bad thing, but I mean, it sure isn't a deliberate thing. It's just that, you know, maybe we're going to get a chance to step back a little bit and let these people solve their own problems.
The only thing I heard from Washington about this is that any American in Egypt should leave.
Right.
Americans
Right.
should leave.
Right. That's
it.
the leadership.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and if our policy is to let nations settle themselves, then we need to come out and say, you know, we're going to have a Monroe Doctrine once again.
Right,
we'll stay out of your affairs, you stay out of ours.
Right.
But to not know what the response is going to
Right.
be, and on which side to support.
It just invites chaos, and that's what's happening all over the world right now.
And chaos, it invites distrust, because you don't know when he says something, does he really mean it? Because that line in the sand, that red line that has been crossed over there a number of times, just seems to be getting moved again and again.
Well, and
that our policy,
you know, and who are we supporting? You know, yeah. So we're just as soon as we start sending aid to the rebels in Syria, they behead a Catholic priest, you know, in front of a cheering crowd. You know, Uh, and is there a word that comes out of the White House condemning the act?
I didn't hear any words.
No, not a bit, not a bit. By the way, I just got back from that. Ordinarily, I'd be dressed up, have my tie on, and all that stuff, but
Because the Red Sox are in first place and they want to get.
no, it's because I tipped over the canoe at the lake yesterday, and this ended up being the only shirt I had left this morning.
How did you? I know how you tip a canoe over, but how did you tip it over?
Let me tell you, it is not easy to tip over. I don't think I've ever tipped over a canoe before yesterday.
Were you standing in it?
No.
You were sitting in it.
But I had just sat in it. In other words, I had just gotten myself in. But West Caroga Lake was crazy yesterday with boats because everybody who had a boat was just speeding around the lane. It's not a very big lake,
No.
so it becomes like setting up that whirlpool in your swimming pool. Everybody's going around and around, and so it was very, very, very choppy. It was almost like there was a tide. There were so many boats creating ripples. But I don't know, because I just got in alone, and of course it's not as stable if there's only one person in the canoe. But yeah, it just went right over. It just went, I let myself in easily from the dock.
Yeah.
Sat down in the stern.
You're not supposed to sit in a canoe. You're supposed to kneel in a canoe.
Well, I was setting myself up.
You were.
Setting himself up to sit.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting on the edge of the seat with my knees under me, and over it goes. Over it goes.
Did you have your life jacket on?
Yeah, I had the life jacket on. I mean, it was also 3 feet of water, but it was I had the life jacket on.
Do we have this on tape?
No, thank God.
Oh, all right. All right.
But
Are people's sides still aching up there?
yeah, well, actually, nobody saw it happen at the time.
At the time. But
The problem is, it wasn't the only time it happened.
Oh!
I do all the old Boy Scout tricks, get the water out of the canoe, manage to get myself back up into it. Then I took over. This time I got down low in this, more toward the center of the canoe, which is a better place to be
When you're solo.
when you're solo. Because this was a good sized canoe. It wasn't a short one. It was probably
A war-
16 footer, I
Like
think.
a war canoe, not just a...
Yeah. So I take it out for a while, and it was rough. I mean, it was rough going. The wind was carrying me, and I was able to control it, but it wasn't fun. So I take it back in, and I exit the canoe and promptly swamped it again. And at that point, Anna shows up, and I'm just sitting on the dock with the floating but full of water canoe.
Is this an aluminum or fiberglass?
It's a fiberglass, and I believe it had a keel. It was pretty much like my canoe, but which usually gives it more stability. But boy, I've never been in one that was so out of control, really.
Well,
Anyway, next time I'll take the kayak. Oh, of course the kids had the kayaks, so
Ah.
yeah, that's my story. I'm
When
sticking
you
to it.
canoe alone, do you use a J-stroke?
Oh, always, yeah, sure, yeah. And often I will, I'll put, a small boulder up front to give it a little more stability. They tell you not to do that because it's not safe if it starts to sink or something. I think that's baloney. If it flips over, the rock's going to the bottom anyway.
That's the plan.
But it seems to me it's much safer to have a stable vehicle than an unstable one. That's my thought.
Kind of like the old days, you used to put cinder blocks in the trunk to drive around here in the wintertime.
That's right.
Up the hill.
yeah.
And is that wrong? I don't think so.
Well, they say it's dangerous, that's all. If you have an accident, it's a projectile.
Well,
Yeah, but when that
But you
was
got
going on,
two sets of seats.
people's safety wasn't viewed the same. I can remember
Yeah.
being a little kid, have a little aluminum chair, a seat, to put up in the front seat so I could see over
Yep.
the dash and look around. There was no seat belt.
No.
There was nothing to hang on to. You just sat there.
Well, seatbelts didn't exist till I was 10 years old, and they
No, just lap belts.
didn't become mandatory for another 7 or 8 years.
And they were just the lap belts when they first came out.
When that's right, it was just a lap belt, and even when I took driver's ed, which would have been maybe summer of 68, 67, 68, 68, I think. Even then, seatbelts were not mandatory. Brian Mee, who was teaching the course, made sure that we used them, and which was good because I learned to drive using the seatbelt.
Yeah.
And to me, it was never, well, this is too much difficulty for me. It was just a natural part of you get in the car, you attach the belt.
It took me a while to
Yeah, because you
get
were,
used to-
yeah, I imagine it did. And because you've been driving for years before
Right.
before seatbelts existed. I remember the first
Right.
seatbelt I saw with Dr. Cortez had him in his station wagon.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
My 73 has two belts. It's got one that goes across the lap, and the one that goes across.
Oh yeah, the separate
There's a
belts.
separate
Yeah,
that you've got to attach it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I went down to West Point with the Cortez family that year. Phil was allowed to bring one friend, and I got to be it.
You got to be a friend for a day.
And I remember, what's this? Why, Dr. Cortez, that's a seatbelt. What do you do with that?
Put it on your seat.
Yeah. Remember those old station wagons, the 3-seaters? Yeah.
Yeah. The last one faced the back.
Some cars they did,
Some
yeah. I
cars
think
the back.
I think our Ford they faced the front. Yeah, that was like the neatest thing to have.
And all the front
You could see
seats were
where
all
you
bench
were.
seats.
Right.
You didn't
Oh,
have
sure.
bucket seats. That was
Right. Oh no,
later
there were no
on.
bucket
They
seats.
They
No,
were
they're all bench.
3 in the front and 4 in the back. You get 7 people in those things,
Yeah.
Sure.
regardless of girth.
Right. Right.
You know, we my dad would come up to pick us up at Scully after the basketball games, and we had a station wagon. We only had just 2 seats, and we had 9 of us in there. We had Blatchford and Mike Surge was sitting in the back, and just sitting in the backwards, and right by the Polish American Bank, we got whacked. Somebody came around the corner,
Ooh.
wide whacked, and we're all in there. Oh, nobody got hurt. And I was talking to Johnny Blatchford Friday night, and he mentioned that, and I said, yeah. I said, imagine what the insurance company would do when you tell you got 9 people. You're sitting there or sitting in the back of a pickup truck.
Right,
Right.
right.
You can't do that stuff anymore.
Right. With the dog.
With the dog. Yeah.
Jumping around.
It just, we are very safety conscious, and sometimes I think a little bit more
bit
so.
overboard. A little bit overboard.
A lot of the things that we did back then would be not only shaky but illegal today, and we
Wow.
didn't think a whole lot about it. It was just a matter of course. This is you go out.
Well, of course, a lot more people getting killed back then too.
Yeah, there were, and there's a lot fewer cars on the road then, even
Yeah.
in our day. But we go out, and you never thought too much about it. When I was in college, my parents got me a Volkswagen Beetle, and John Armstrong and Chris Bartiz and I, we used to go over to Schmaltzy's on Milton Ave a lot, because Schmaltzy had a canopy out there, and they have a ping pong table, so we'd go over there and have a couple beers and play ping pong. And we were in there one night, and we were playing ping pong out there, and all of a sudden just big whack. I said, oh boy, somebody got hit. Yeah, I got it. The guy backed right into the front of my Volkswagen with a hood, and the only reason we got him, because he got hung up on the bumper, So,
Yeah, in those days the bumpers would get stuck, and you have to
Yeah.
jump on them to get them.
yeah, so we go home, and my best friend Bill Miner is with me, and I said, come on in with me. He says, I don't want to go. I said, come on, you got to come in. You got to explain to my parents it wasn't my fault. It was parked. I was parked legally. He goes in, my parents are, and they're making that face, like, right, tell him, Bill, tell him, it wasn't as bad as I anticipated it, but
It was drunk, Mrs. Murdoch.
drunk while parking.
Well parked.
Well parked, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault, but we used to go to Schmaltz's and
You know, I was watching an old movie from the late 30s, early 40s a while back, and these cars kept crashing into each other. And nothing happened. I mean, today you'd have the cops and the insurance company there and everything else. But it was just you just got down, you jumped on them, broke the bumpers loose, and went on your way because those bumpers actually did something.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
They don't do anything nowadays.
No, they were.
No, they're
these
nothing
things-
nowadays. They don't even really exist.
Heavy metal cars. I mean, that's you get a dent, they can hammer the dent out.
Yeah.
you know?
Chrome. That's right.
Yeah, it was different. You know, and I can remember my mom having to get pushed down Fairmount Avenue because you couldn't get the car started. You have another car just push me and you pop it into gear
Pop
and
into gear.
it would start.
Right.
You can't do that anymore.
Right.
Holy
Right.
mackerel. First of all, you wouldn't dare push another car because you're going to wreck your bumper and their bumper.
Right.
You know?
All right.
And of course, nobody has a clutch anymore because they're all automatics.
Yeah, well, that's it. Without the clutch, you can't do that. But I used to have standard shift cars when I first owned this house, and I just park it on the street, and I'd never have to worry if the battery was dead. I just roll down George Street, and it'll start itself. All I got to do is take the brake off, and we start rolling.
Yeah.
There are advantages to living on hills. And I remember, geez, I had a VW bus. Man, that's the only way I would start it. I don't even know if I had a battery in it.
Well, when you parked on the hill, you were good to go.
Yeah.
We had a 51 Hudson. We went up to a winter
A
camp out.
51 Hudson. Boy, that was a big car.
We went up to San Souci up in Wells, and we were going in for winter camporee, and it was a wooden floor. My father had worn a hole by the gas pedal, and the snow's blowing up inside, you know. And he's trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other foot over the hole, you know, because those things had wooden floors in them. And it was different. It was different.
You mean it was built with a wooden floor?
Yeah.
Really?
It had a wooden floor, yeah. And he wore right through the mat and right through the thing, and the snow's.
Wow.
Holy cow! It was unbelievable.
We had a couple of Studebakers. Our first car was a Studebaker. My father's first car.
Those are big.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the 1950, with the bullet on the front, kind of looked like a jet plane coming at you. It's a neat
drove
car.
like a tank, though.
Yeah. But then the 54 Studebaker was really the first car with modern lines. Before that they were these big, rounded, bulky, and that was really more like the cars that developed from then on. It was streamlined. That was a neat car, and my dad got in an accident, and I was into that.
My first car had a crank.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, crank to start up, not crank driving.
32.
Wow.
Of course, it was 15 years old when I got it.
Did you need two people to start it?
No.
One behind the wheel and one on the crank?
No. No.
No, I think he's right.
You do it by
You
yourself?
said then
Yeah.
it would just go bum, 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 then you hop in and put it in gear.
Set the spark and everything else on the steering wheel. They had
Set
the spark.
the spark.
Yeah.
No electric
Yeah, the
ignition.
little around the horn.
Yeah.
In the middle of the steering wheel.
Yeah.
There's little tabs that you move them to set the spark, and I forget what the other one was, but get everything set. You go crank it. Got to.
Well, you had the choke. Yeah, you had to choke it too.
Oh, yeah.
Be careful of your thumb, or because if you got your hand the wrong way, you break your wrist or your thumb.
Well, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't have to use it too many times, but a couple of times we did.
Holy mackerel.
Or push it. We had this. Who's going to push today?
One guy rides and one guy
I
pushes.
pushed yesterday.
I saw a picture today on Facebook of somebody changing a tire. When I was first driving, I used to change tires all the time.
All the time.
I probably could not remember the last time I changed a tire right now.
People would buy retreads.
Oh, absolutely. My
Tires.
father never got anything but retreads. They were like $20 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Put a retread on when the other one wears out, and then they'll take that, patch it up, and so then what they used to have, our tires, they were tubed.
Tube tires.
Yeah, and then the first
Right.
ones came out tubeless. Oh, I don't know about these tubeless tires. How they gonna work? Yeah, it was tough, but you could get the car off the ground with those jacks. Now you gotta crank it around, and they only get you up just enough
Right,
to get the tire off with
right,
those.
right. The old jacks, and of course they were bumper jacks,
Yeah.
so the bumper meant something. My grandfather told me about like back in the 20s. They lived about an hour from Cape Cod in those days. When I say an hour, if you drove today's car on the same roads, it'd take you about an hour. Then it took all day because they would change tires at least 4 times before getting to their destination. It's just, they would heat up, they'd expand, they'd pop, you'd take them off, you'd patch them, you'd pump them up, you go another few miles, you'd lose another one, and that was just considered the part of the driving experience. You would change tires 4 times a trip.
The problem was the bead on the tire would wear out, and it would slip out of the rim. Because if you hit a bump,
Oh,
it would come out. And
yeah.
you've got a flat tire, so you got to go out there and you got to set it again, and you got to
Pump it up.
and you've got to pump.
And with the
Pump, you start all
With a hand
don't
pump?
hit that hole. Don't hit that.
but they probably had 10 pounds of pressure on them too.
They were like balloons.
I guess the earliest cars they weren't even pneumatic tires, right? They were just solid rubber.
Right. And we saw a lot of those cars yesterday. Both of the parades that were in, people, they always have the old cars there and stuff. And one guy had one of the station wagons, had the wooden back on it, and all these guys keep these cars immaculate. I mean, they're just shining, all polished up before the parade.
Oh, the wood paneled station, right?
Panel,
oh yeah. Those were like 1950 or 40s.
Yeah, beautiful old cars.
Yeah.
There are a couple Model Ts they had up there, and it was
Where was this?
Argyle and
sure.
then Schroon Lake. It was just
Argyle.
Well, that's a jump from Argyle to Schroon Lake.
it's an hour. It's another hour beyond. So we did the morning one at Argyle, then we went up and did the afternoon up there. And another part of the band did Outlaws. Outlaws had a 4th of July parade.
Oh, in other words, they went all the way from Scotia Glenville to Outlaws, which is about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I got the Argyle end of it,
And you got Argyle and Schroon Lake.
But Outlaws came up and did Schroon Lake, so we had the big band from Schroon Lake. The stuff, you got these old fire engines in these parades and stuff.
Outlaws is actually like an organized community. I just thought it was just like like a
Hegemonish is kind of what it is. It's over between Niskayuna and Shenandoah.
Yeah, I know where it is.
It's
It's
just-
but it never seemed to be more than a sign on the road.
Huge,
the neighborhood.
big parade. It was about a mile-long parade that they have up there. And there's one house that's got the Star Spangled
Where
Banner
is it?
flag
Is it
up.
parade on Route 50 or somewhere else?
No, it's somewhere else. It's back. It's on the same
It can't
road.
be on Route 50. That's
No,
too busy a
it's
road.
on the road that the fire department is on. They said I wrote the directions to. But they had this huge flag. It was probably 20 feet by 10 feet. It was monstrous, hanging from this tree up there. And then we always have to stop there and play Bonnie Dundee because the lady that owns the place is Scottish and she likes that. But these small communities do such a wonderful job with holiday programs.
Yeah.
Most of the big cities
Yeah.
we don't have anything here.
Yeah.
Not since Joe Isabel quit the fireworks, since Gateway.
Well, there's fireworks at the ballpark tonight.
Yeah.
The Mohawks have been putting them on. It's yeah.
But they didn't have one yesterday. They had one Wednesday and they got one tonight. They didn't play home yesterday.
So, I was wondering about. You said Gateway. It reminded me. What do you think? You think we're going to go to 2 hours on the radio or 2 days?
That's what I hear.
That's what he's looking for. 2 hours or 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, if the show with No Idea can have 2 days and an hour apiece, I think the show with No
That radio show is getting tougher and tougher to do. It's so short.
Yeah.
It is. An hour is tough, you know.
Yeah.
And having 2 days, an hour apiece is the same thing just twice.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you know,
There's no
Sam and Mike have
continuity.
managed to say the same thing for years, and
Yeah.
they you know, and people still listen.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yeah.
Uh,
They had the county people on today talking.
it makes you appreciate, I think, what a guy like Limbaugh does, where he goes 3 hours every day.
Yeah,
And it's. I mean,
Yeah, but he's got peoples that.
yeah,
prepare
no,
all
of
this
course,
stuff.
obviously, as
You know,
people.
Get the.
Well, we've got
stuff
people.
together.
We've got people.
I've
Yeah,
got
but
Jim.
also-
Do you think
also Limbaugh-
you think
Limbaugh
that
is the
this
same
show is
thing
just
over and over and
spontaneous?
over.
Oh, we have.
Yeah.
But and he used to do that and then do the hour TV show, and then Beck too. Beck does 3 hours a day and does his TV podcast every day.
Hannity does. Does Hannity still have
And
radio?
Hannity does 3 hours a day plus an hour TV show. Yeah. Now, generally the TV show kind of repeats what you said on the radio and vice versa,
A
but
little bit,
but even so, that's a lot of work.
yeah, a lot of work, a lot of peoples.
Yeah.
We've got some, but I don't know if our staff could be stretched that thin. I mean, they balk. I think
Did you
some
hear
of them balk.
did you hear the politicians on the radio today?
Thayer from the county.
Thayer and
And,
Santa Barbara.
I didn't hear Santa Barbara.
And Tonko called too. You know, the talking.
He still has a number, Taco?
Yeah, he's they talked and they don't say anything.
He Paul Tonko, by the way, just celebrated his 64th birthday.
He did.
So
Sixty-four.
wish him a happy birthday.
And he's been in
You know,
in politics for
for most of his
50
life.
those years?
I'm a little. I suppose this is part of living in a great country where we can debate our differences and such. Politically, there's probably not a thing that I agree with Paul Tonko on. Seriously, and not in a million years would I ever vote for him. Paul Tonko, the politician, I want stomped into the ground, drawn, quartered, tarred, feathered, and run out of the country. And when he gets reelected, which he always does, part of me says, I'm happy for my friend Paul Tonko that he got what he wanted, even though there's no way I would ever help him get it.
Yeah.
And you know, he's you know, personally he's a very kind fellow, and he always you know, greets my children by name and stuff like that, and you appreciate that personal touch. And I would never vote for him in a million years.
It has nothing to do with his political.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, but I'm saying as a human being,
We separate.
when I always congratulate him when he wins,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel good for him because it makes him happy that he got what he wanted,
And people,
even though he's ruining the
but
country.
But gee, Jim, he's a nice guy. He's this. I said,
Yeah, but yeah, there's no
he's a
reason to
nice
vote
guy.
for him.
I says 90%.
I can separate it.
That I'm a nice guy. I
Well,
thought my political opponents think
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I says
Well,
so.
sure.
I says you can't go by that. I says there's a lot of guys I like personally.
Yeah, that you
I
never.
don't like them politically,
Right.
and I would never help them.
That's
All right.
And-
So I wish Paul a happy birthday, and may you have everything that you want, and may you lose all your elections.
except another term. Except another term.
Yeah. But you can't say that about all politicians.
No, you really can't. No, there's some
There's
people who are
some
just plain
0 for 2.
plain vicious. You're right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I
Not
think,
only are
I
they
think
wrong
the big-
politically, but they're also not good people.
Right.
I think the problem with most politicians is their ego gets in their way. They think they're better than they are. They think they're better than
Well, it's-
everyone else in their views.
Yeah, and it's it's hard. It's hard to avoid that when you're in those positions, I think. But you're right, and people before they go to the legislature, after 3 or 4 years, they're just like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, any legislature, I'm not just saying the state legislature.
No, in the episode last night with John Adams, Abigail was reading one of the things that he's written before he gives it, and she talks about him grounding himself and staying focused. So when he's going to be selected to go to the Continental Congress, he gets up and talks to the people of Boston. And in there he talks about how this hierarchy of government that they were under, one ruled by a king, should not be dictated to, because there are certain inalienable rights that they have, and that these people have begun to separate themselves from the masses. And while he's going on talking about this, I said, well, if he were speaking today, he would allude to the leaders of this nation as just that, who are no longer in touch with reality of what the life of the average person is going through, and how they put themselves above. If you pass a law, for me, by golly, it should impact you the same way. You should have to follow it. Not unlike Obamacare. These people are able to opt out. Well, we don't need that. We're going to have something else.
We have to exempt the legislative aides. Otherwise, we'll lose all these bright people. Don't you think all these companies in this country are losing bright people because of the cost of the health insurance?
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, okay, now we get into something.
Here we go.
All of a sudden, they're kicking the can down the road past the next election.
That's right, because now the stink won't be attached to the election.
Right.
The stink will be attached to the next one,
and
he'll be gone.
Son
of a gun. As much as I disliked him during his first term, I dislike him more now, because I believe he's in a position that it really doesn't matter to him anything that happens, because he doesn't have to stand for it again in an election.
Right. That's right.
That's one of the...
He really doesn't care.
He doesn't care, and that's one of the disadvantages of having people become lame ducks in their position, because there is no incentive for them to do a good job or to care about the job they're doing, because they don't have to stand for their actions any longer, because they're going to be walking away.
What do you suppose that poor guy's going to do with the rest of his life?
It doesn't matter. He's got enough money to do anything he wants. Okay? He'll probably go back to what he does best and be a community organizer, as opposed to a leader and an administrator of the people's money. It's not.
What he'll do is he'll get in the way of whoever takes his place. That's what he's going to do.
And that is not the path that former presidents have taken.
Not most of them, huh?
They don't stand up and speak out against the sitting president. They
Iraq
may bite their tongue a lot, but they don't get up and politic against them.
When they laid the wreath at, I forget where it was the other day, Bush and Obama, and they're walking side by side, to lay, I said, what's going through this guy's mind?
Yeah.
Especially Bush. He said, this guy's blaming everything that's happened on me, and I've got to walk with him to lay this. And then
actually, probably less than if it was the reverse, because George Bush is of a character that he doesn't let that stuff bother him as much as it might bother other people, like their wives.
Then it showed Michelle next to Laura.
Oh, poor Laura.
I know.
As much as I don't care for what the president does, it bothers me even more what she does and how she conducts herself.
Me too.
I mean, it's like
she doesn't have the presence.
It's like a Marie Antoinette caricature, I think the real Marie Antoinette was probably pretty decent, from what I've read of history. But it's like the let 'em eat cake. I mean, she shows up with to show her solidarity with the poor people of Africa in her $2,900 designer dress.
They showed them walking the island where Mandela had been imprisoned, and he's kind of talking to his girl, trying to give him a little history lesson. you know, and every time a word came out of his mouth, he's such a phony baloney. There is no conviction, there is no sincerity, there's behind what his words are. And I don't know why people think he's such a great speaker, because he has that.
Yeah, I don't either.
That tone of
yeah.
arrogance, beyond arrogance, yeah. when he speaks. There's no.
But he's half black and he's half white.
Yeah.
Never ever does they say something positive about the whites. It's always positive about the blacks. He never ever.
Well, I don't think there's any. Well, he was brought up that way. He was brought up by his white grandparents to hate white people. I mean, you know.
He's not our first black president. He's our first multiracial president.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's not even that.
No, it's not multi.
Because Warren Harding actually had some black blood in him. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. He essentially it came out in one of those anonymous broadsides that people used to, and he didn't really deny it. To his advisors, he says, "Well, you know, somebody might have jumped the fence a few generations back."
No denial is a silent admission.
Oh, wait, how did that go? Oh, because the reason it didn't become an issue in the 1920 election is that who did he run against? It doesn't matter. The guy he was running against was also an Ohio newspaper guy. They almost had identical resumes.
Yeah.
But his wife, I think, was actually a Harding, and they were like third or fourth cousins, and apparently the guy's wife had the same lineage with respect to that issue. And so it did not become an issue in the presidential campaign because well, heck, I was born one, you married one.
Yeah,
I mean, that would have really been one of the high points of American political theater, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so then which leads us to the.
I grew up with a couple of kids. They lived probably maybe a half block away, and the grandmother lived with them. Never saw the grandmother. Never saw the grandmother. Except one day we were playing in his backyard and his grandmother appeared. She was black.
There was a movie that was made twice, and I can't remember the name of it. It was quite good, and the first version came out early enough that it was really would have been considered controversial at the time, and basically her daughter was very white. And it wasn't until the mother came to school to meet the teacher or something that they found out, and there's all this controversy back and forth. It was a big movie. I can't remember the name of it though. Then they remade it some years later.
But that never made a difference to us. We were kids.
Well, when you're kid, as Oscar Hammerstein says, unless you're taught, you don't
learn it.
I mean, fortunately, I had parents who didn't have a racist bone in their body. My mother was remember being very upset by the riots in the 60s because she always treated everybody the same, and she couldn't understand why people would think there's something wrong with her because she's white, But my first experience with racism, I was 5, 6 years old, maybe 6. I know I was just going into school, whether it was kindergarten or first grade, I don't quite remember. And my mother brought us to downtown Albany to get us school shoes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the shoe store. And I remember vividly the woman who was selling us the shoes. If I were to say now, I'd say she was probably an alcoholic. She had wispy gray hair in a bun. She had a long, dark print dress, and very impatient. So there's 4 of us, we're all trying our shoes on and all this stuff. And I remember this black kid from downtown Albany coming in, looking at the shoes on display, and picking one up, kind of admiring it, and he turns to her and says, he's maybe 12 years old, and he says, "How much are these?" And she turned to him, got all nervous, and she said, "Oh, those aren't available to the public." And I remember thinking, because I'm a smart kid, I've never heard this word public before, but now I've learned a new word. It means Negro.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
That was her subtlety.
And then And then I remember getting really confused when I started school right after that, and we learned the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's to the republic for which it stands. I said, well, there's that public word again. Why does it stand for Negroes? I don't understand. Yeah. But I picked up on it at the age of 5, what was going on, and it really annoyed me.
Yeah, I think that was something that Amsterdam, we had so few.
Yeah, there were half a dozen families, and we knew them all, and we all went to school with them.
Yeah, that was it.
Or hung out at the Y with them. And,
But it's like you say, it's learned. It's something that you learn.
But even when we're in high school, if you were a black family, you couldn't get a motel room in Amsterdam. There were places, well, I guess I shouldn't name them now, but there were bars where they were not allowed to drink, not allowed to enter, no matter who they were. I mean, it's not because I'm banning you. I'm banning everybody who looks like you, and that was common even after the '64 Civil Rights Law was passed. Because we were still in grade school when that happened.
Yeah, we were.
Anyway, racism always annoyed me. They were the only black family in our neighborhood when I lived outside of Albany. I think they owned that pig farm at the end of Rapp Road that used to be at the exit 24 of the thruway. Remember how that used to, when the exit 24 used to exit right, and on a day like today,
you knew it was.
You knew where you were.
Yeah.
And now that's all luxury townhouses and stuff down that way on Rapp Road. But there was a little girl who used to ride the school bus with me, sit with her in single McDonald. She was probably 3 years younger than me at the time.
At a time in our history when we would like to believe, and we certainly hope that kind of identifier should no longer exist. Every form you fill out, you have to delineate where you are among these several categories that they're concerned about. Whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Mexican American, are you a Pacific Islander?
Aleut.
Are you black? Are you Caucasian? Are you other? Every form, and then same thing is in school as well.
All the forms particularly in schools,
you have to fill out to submit to the state. It has to have all these identifiers on, and I think it just, more than anything, it highlights some of the battles we're trying to fight. Yet they're still feeding the fire by having everybody be classified as something. I don't understand that. There should be no identifier. You should have your name on there. And the college applications, it's the same thing.
My sister-in-law got that census.
Did she?
Yeah.
Was she kind and considerate and helpful to the people?
I didn't know she had gotten it because, the mail comes to my mailbox, so I give her what's there. The other day, got the card.
Yeah, that's a reminder.
A reminder, if you didn't fill this out, you got to fill it out. And I didn't give it to her right away because I thought it was mine. Then I read it. I said, what the hell is this? I didn't get anything. And I look on the front. No, it's hers. So I give it to her. She said, I filled that out yesterday.
Oh, holy cow. I'm surprised you spent 45 minutes doing it.
Never knew she filled it out. Usually she.
Well, just tell her it's a
bitches to
good
me.
thing, because otherwise the Justice Department would come
Yeah,
knocking
we
on
can
her
have
door. On your door, actually, and probably on your telephone calling you.
Anybody know when we started this show, by the way?
Yes,
It's
yes, I
about
do.
20 after.
So we're at about an hour right now?
Just about an
Just
hour
about an
now.
hour.
Yeah,
All right. Okay, that's a good place to cut then. And you got to work today?
yes, I do.
Well, maybe we'll go for a couple more minutes and just do the one show then, because
We
I
can do
don't
that.
want to.
Okay.
I know I was
do
late
that.
getting this started, and I
I
don't.
guess you were late.
Huh?
I guess you were late.
I was 3 minutes late. Okay.
But how can we start 20 minutes late then, if you're only 3 minutes late?
Because when I got here, you guys weren't here.
I brought the newspaper in, and Bob, and
I called for Chip the Wonder Dog. Nobody greeted me.
Chip's not
I came
here?
in. I looked in here. The stuff.
However,
was not
what
here.
you don't know is
I said-
I called your house and left a message on the answering machine.
Well, what time was
Well,
that?
it was about quarter of. We're
Well,
probably
I
already
was
here by then.
Get ready to count. No, I went to the bank and I got here about 5 of. I thought I'd walk right in.
taken care of.
Yeah, and I went back and finished up after.
I got here at 3 minutes after. I made sure I drove past your house and close enough to your house that it might make a difference.
All right. Well, we appreciate the phone call.
Okay. So
After
Not
you
mu-
weren't here, I went home. I said, maybe he sent me a message last night. So
I checked that this morning,
That
first
is-
thing.
10:04
so you did get the email message?
this morning.
Oh, good. Did you? Or didn't
Not
you go
before
home
I left.
first?
I haven't been home.
No. It would have been after 10 when I got home. I
No.
sent you back guys both messages.
I got to go
All right.
back now.
So you just coincidentally came back.
I did. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I thought maybe, you were indisposed when I was in here yelling.
Well, that
for
could be
you.
too, because I had one car here. I
Yeah, there was no car here when I came by. I thought,
No, it's on the street. The green car was
Yeah,
on the street.
but there's always something really
Well,
here
I
when
saw,
you're
I
really
saw
here.
that car out. I said, they must be out in the other vehicle. I said,
Yeah, you were
Gone
right. We
somewhere.
were.
Yeah.
We were. We
That's
got.
okay.
I got talking with my sister, and she made a nice breakfast, and then all of a sudden I realized it was about 15 minutes later than I thought it was. And I said,
That's
let's
fine,
get out of here.
Mr. Going.
Let me tell you, her place is about 90 steps down from where you park your car, which means it's 90 steps back up. So I'm rich, and I'm trying to get. Come on, Mary, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Where is Chip?
Chip is with Anna elsewhere. Yes,
okay.
and there's some discussion as to whether he's coming back or not.
Anna would like to keep him?
Well, it is her dog. But,
Ooh.
we had some discussions.
he's an old dog. He's an old dog.
Well, he's lost a lot of weight since in the last couple of weeks since I last saw him. He's because they're not giving him a treat every time I walk in the door because I'm not walking in the door.
I'll play with Anna.
And plus, they're actually taking him out for walks, and he goes for swims, and
Somebody's paying attention to him. That's what happens.
yeah, I know, but he's so attached to me.
I don't think so, because he's not at your door.
That's not his fault. He got put in a car, and I don't think he realized he wasn't coming back. Anyway,
That's all right.
Well, you're reading the paper all the time. But dogs travel across the country to get back to their
Yeah.
master, but yours isn't coming back.
all right, this isn't a Disney movie for crying out loud.
Speaking of Disney movies, I guess that one's really gotten panned.
Boom. What are they thinking? What are they thinking? First of all right,
For those who don't know, we're talking about.
the Lone Ranger.
Okay.
Now, first of all, we're in our 60s.
Did you see it?
And I'm not going to say it. We're in our 60s. And the Lone Ranger TV show is in our vague recollection, right? And the radio show was a lot more vague than that in our recollection.
However.
Okay. We're in our 60s. Now, somewhere about 20 years ago, they did a remake of it. I forgot who was in it. It was probably somebody who was never heard from again. But the big story about the remake at that time was that, or the rebooting, was that they forbade Clayton Moore from appearing as a Lone Ranger thereafter. He'd been appearing as a Lone Ranger in public
Forever.
appearances
Yes.
forever. And as a result, he ended up making his public appearances with a cowboy hat and wide, dark sunglasses.
Right, 'cause he didn't have the mask.
So he wasn't allowed to be the Lone Ranger anymore because we can't confuse people with this new Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Well, that disappeared.
Well,
Now, they spent $250 million telling the same story for the fourth time. You know, first on the radio, and then the whole Cavendish thing on TV with Clayton Moore was also released as a feature, which was really 3 half-hour TV programs put together as a TV show, as a feature film, in color. And then they do the whole Cavendish gang thing again in the 80s, and now they're doing the whole thing again, only spending $250 million. And just because you got Johnny Depp playing Tonto, this is supposed to.
When I saw the picture of Tonto,
yeah,
I said, no.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to go see this movie.
That was a
I
good
wanted
move.
to see it when I first heard it was coming
And
out.
how, in this day of enlightenment that we have, you got some white guy playing Tonto. Okay.
Right, well, he claims to be part Cherokee, like that senator from Massachusetts.
Yeah, okay. After, Wes Studi and all these guys and Last of the Mohegans, Dancing with Wolves, all these great
Real Indian,
movies and these great Indian actors, they get Johnny Depp to play him. Okay, and he certainly plays him as a little kind of bizarre character in there, as a holy man or a medicine man, and they're wearing the stuffed crow on his head. And the reviews that it certainly appears that he is the star, and the Lone Ranger is kind of a sidekick to it, which doesn't make any difference, but it just looks like such a crap movie.
Yeah, and I guess the review and the recorder, the syndicated review and the recorder. I shouldn't blame Charlie Crable for this. I mean, it says the movie doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't know what its theme is. It doesn't. It's just. You just can't sell it on the basis of it being the Lone Ranger, which is the way I started out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's now it's
any more than the Green Hornet took off.
It's the character. They're advertising the character. It's not the movie anymore.
I bring up the Green Hornet because in radio lore, the Green Hornet was in fact the grandnephew of the Lone Ranger. He was the grandson of John Reed's brother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that was the modern story, which was essentially the Lone Ranger in the 30s. Yeah.
All right. But we've got DVDs of the Lone Ranger, and
I got
it's great. Clayton Moore. You're right though. Clayton Moore. Every place he went, he was the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
His mask was made out of plaster.
Out of what?
Plaster.
Plaster.
Yeah, because the cloth ones wouldn't stay, so they made a plaster cast of them, and they cover with this material, and that's what he wears. And do you know why his hat never comes off in a fight?
Is he bald?
Clayton Moore was not bald.
They glued it on?
Huh? No. Well, no. They put like
Velcro?
A turning piece of rubber in there and tied it tight, and put it inside his band so it would stay on tight, so it wasn't coming off all the time.
And,
I wish I could remember. I met one of them when I was a kid, or maybe both of them.
When my kids were
Jay
growing
Silverheels?
up. Jay Silverheels or Clayton Moore.
Yeah.
When my kids were growing up, he used to tell them that I was a cowboy when I was a kid.
You mean you lied to your children? Well, what the heck?
Is that because of all the horse shit on your boots?
Dad, yeah. Because I used to have boots that I used to wear. So one day I'm at some antique flea market thing, and there's an old bridle hanging there for $3. So I buy it and I take it out in the garage. I hang it in the garage. So my granddaughter was a horsewoman, equestrian or whatever you call them.
Cowgirl?
Yeah, I says, yeah, but I used to be a cowboy when I was. No, Gramps, don't tell me these things. I said, yeah. I said, go in the garage and you'll see the tack. I still got it hanging out there.
Oh, wow!
She went out and looked. She says, I still don't believe it.
So $3 was wasted, huh?
$3 was wasted.
And it took you 30 years to get the joke out of it.
Wow, the original was every Saturday morning. Get up there and watch those. It was.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a good show.
They used to bring those TV characters to the A&P on Fuller Road in Albany on a Saturday morning or something, right? And I think I met one. I kind of think I met Jay Silverheels, but who knows? Yeah. But I have a distinct recollection of meeting Leo Carrillo, who played Pancho in the Cisco Kid, and was like, he was like 78 years old when I met him. He was old when he started that series, because this would have been the late 50s and that was early 50s.
When I was
he was neat.
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was, but the Roy Rogers had gone to Gloversville to one of the glove factories to get gloves or something to promote the glove company. And I think the year after, or a couple of years after that, Gabby Hayes showed up. Him I saw. I don't remember when it was, but he had gone there to see. I'm trying to remember the glove company.
Something.
No, it's Hayes and something.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay. So it was.
Well, he had nothing to do with it, but
But he pretended.
Yeah. So, but they had some actors come to Gloversville to
Genuine Western gibberish.
Oh yeah. And every place in the West looked like Monument Valley.
Yep.
Ah yes.
You know, and then it's 2.5 hours long. The Lone
It is.
Ranger. Oh,
Yeah, and the one review said it was about 2 hours too long.
we went to meanwhile we went to see Despicable Me 2 with Laura on Tuesday, and it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. I laughed so hard, and Laura keeps looking at. She was laughing at some things, and I was laughing at other things. And I mean, the tears were running down. I was laughing, and she's looking over at me. Stop! Stop!
You're embarrassing.
You're embarrassing.
You're having too much fun for a little
You're having too much fun. This is a movie for kids. It is so clever, and the timing is superb. And I guess that one only runs an hour, less than an hour and a half, and it never seems long. It's over too soon.
Yeah, for too long.
You're waiting for it to keep going.
But now that's got to be made by the same people who made Shrek, I think.
Pixar?
It's not Pixar. It's
Not
Universal's doing it. It's not a Pixar, but it's got a lot of the same kind of gags in it as the original Shrek movie. It's wonderful. The last 5 minutes or so, I was just on the floor. Oh, jeez. And the first movie was great, and it was a much more intricate plot. But this one, they're able. You don't have to. You already know the characters. You don't have to set anything up, and it's and it just works. It works, and they made that for $75 million, and they're going to make $1 billion on it, and the Lone Rangers are going to lose their shirts on it. Walt would never have made that movie.
Yeah, but see, the problem is...
Or he would have made it as a 90-minute cartoon.
These movies, they make it up front. When it's first released, everybody's got to go see it. That's where they make the money.
Right. Before they find out how bad it is.
Yeah, exactly. So they come up with the thing, they outdid somebody else.
The weekend show was $50 million. Okay. Well, you know what? The tickets are $1 million a piece. Okay.
Well, did you see? If you want to see the hot release, it's like $50 a ticket or something.
Yeah. But they give you free popcorn.
Oh yeah,
they give you a whole bunch of stuff with it if you go for it. But
I hear the Red Sox won again last night.
yeah, they did win again. I think it was 3-2. It's a close game last night. They're a bunch up now on the Yanks in Baltimore.
Yeah, they're like 8-1 for their last 9 games.
5 or 6 games ahead.
They're 6 games ahead of the Yankees, and I think it's still only 2.5 ahead of Baltimore, unless Baltimore lost last night. I don't know.
I remember.
Baltimore's been keeping pace with them pretty good. What about those Yankees?
They got a bunch of AAA players.
And A-Rod, now A-Rod is,
In rehab. He's on his
but
minor
he's
league
playing.
roster. He's playing, yeah. Jeter is still,
Jeter's is almost ready to play a Double-A.
and Texeira's out for the rest of the season, and
Uh-huh.
they don't know when Granderson's
and by the time A-Rod comes back, they're going to suspend him for 100
Well,
games.
maybe.
But I don't think but they're not going to do that till he comes back. So.
Well, they aren't going to have the proof maybe until the time he gets back. They'll do it because he's still Braun is still.
Does he
Braun's
take-
on the DL list
Does he
too.
take a reduction in pay when
He'll
he's
lose
on
his contract.
disabled?
The
Oh
whole-
no! Disabled list, no. But
Nothing?
if
He doesn't
no,
lose anything?
no, disabled list doesn't disqualify. But if he gets charged
yeah.
this time, the contract
Oh, yeah.
is null and void. He's
Yeah.
going to lose a whole bunch of
A
money.
lot of money.
Oh, the whole contract
The
is null and
whole
void.
rest of the contract is gone.
Oh, so he just doesn't lose the 100 games.
No,
And they'd be crazy to re-sign him at that point.
Well,
they're crazy to re-sign him this time for the 10 years that they did.
Right.
they suspended his pay for the 100 games.
Yeah,
They suspended.
but they-
Before they suspend him, after they suspend him for the 100 games,
So
then
void
they
his
then they
contract.
then they can
Games
void his
will be allowed.
contract.
Then
Void his
they
contract.
can let him be a free agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one? Hey, you see who is back?
Who's back?
Manny.
Huh?
Manny.
Get out of here.
Wait. He got signed by somebody's in the minor leagues for him now. He's playing for. Shoot. He is. He's back. Somebody signed him to a minor league contract this week.
Did he ever do his suspension? He
I don't
must
know how
have.
that's going to work out. Whether they're going to count the time as retirement part of that, or if the time he signed his contract now and he'll have to sell 100 games, I don't know. But he got signed. I'm almost thinking it was Texas, but I won't swear to it.
Well, he's a capable guy.
Yeah, he's hitting
Okay,
30
so-
something over in Japan or China, wherever he's playing, Taiwan, wherever he was.
So he has been playing.
He's been playing, yeah.
Well,
We'll see.
we'll see. Meanwhile, that's about enough.
Back at the ranch.
We didn't get
Double R Bar Ranch.
the Zimmerman trial. The people's case should be ending today. It's probably going on as we speak. So we'll talk about that on the radio show, I guess.
Yeah,
Might
because
be over by then.
I haven't been watching it, so
Oh, I got a lot to say.
I knew you would have.
Yeah, yeah. You know, as a former prosecutor, former judge, and former defense attorney, I actually know something about this stuff. Just before we go, one of the things that really surprised me is that the judge has already pre-ruled that the defense will not be able to use the missing witness charge. In other words, if the people fail to produce a witness that you would ordinarily think would be an important to their case, you have the right to comment on that to the jury. Well, she said you can't do that. Now, the law may be different in Florida. In New York, that'd be reversible error. One of the things they haven't done, for example, is they haven't actually proved the guy's dead yet. They have not submitted proof that Trayvon Martin is dead. They don't have they won't call the medical examiner because they don't want all the marijuana in his system to come before the jury, and Lord only knows what else. But I don't even think they presented a death certificate showing that he's dead.
I can't say.
That's pretty fundamental to a charge of murder.
Yeah, I was going to say how can you have a murder trial if
You don't have a
nobody's
victim.
dead? Well, yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So maybe they will produce a death certificate. All right, that's enough. We'll talk about more. We got the regular radio show will be on Tuesday, 10:04 a.m. on WCSS and WCSS1490.com. And meanwhile, I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch, and this is
The show.
With no name.
With No Name. Wait, that's my job.
Oh, that do that over again.